So episode 3 of The Bachelor. So this episode starts off, we see this, what I call a forced call. I don't know if this is true, but to me it seems like, why? I hate when they do this. Like, we see Zach get a call, or he calls, I think his name is Sean Lowe, a bachelor from several seasons ago, who's still married with kids, he's happy, whatever. Kind of asking for advice, that kind of thing. I just find it so unnecessary. It's just like, and they didn't really say much in the call, like, well, at least of what they showed. So I feel like it's so unnecessary for them to do this kind of stuff, but whatever. So we see Jesse. He walks into the room with all the girls, and he tells them, you know, this week there's going to be 3 dates, 2 one-on-ones and 1 big group date. And of course, Katie gets the first one-on-one. And, she gets ready. She comes out and kind of sits with the girls on the couch. And then we see Zach. It's so awkward when they do this. We see Zach. He's dressed up as well. He sits down with the girls on the couch. And I just find it so unnecessary for them to do that. It looks really awkward because everyone's just there kind of like, hope you have a good time, but not really. And I loved Katie's dress, though. She was wearing this like emerald green silky strap, it had like some thin straps, and it had like a slit on the side. I love those kind of dresses. I feel like they're always really cute. They're simple. I feel like if you're going to a wedding, that's like the perfect kind of dress to wear, or like any formal event. Like it just always looks nice. So I think Zach had a bigger connection with her than I originally thought, and I'm seeing this not only with her but with other girls as well. So I'm kind of like, what kind of moment is gonna, like, it seems like he has different connections with many of the women, and I can't tell so far who he has a connection with the best. He says they had an early connection on night 1. He felt a spark right away, and so their date was honestly super cool. Like, I feel like some people might think it was kind of lame, but I thought it was super cool. They went to a natural history museum, and, it's in the night. There's absolutely no one there. I feel like, I don't know, a good trip to the museum, like, it's always kind of fun depending on who you're going with. And the fact that it's like one of those things where, like, you're somewhere you're not supposed to be, really, or like not many people get to just be in a museum alone at night, just the two of you having this romantic like date. So I thought it was super cool. You walk in, you see the dinosaur like skeletons everywhere. It's honestly really cool. And he's kind of like begins to ask her like what she's looking for in a partner, and she reveals that she was with someone for 7 years on and off. It was toxic, it was tumultuous, it was all these things, and I think a lot of people can relate with that. And yeah, it seems like it didn't end well. Like, she got hurt in the end, and she said something like, it just sounds so like basic, and they bleep out the word that she used, but I think she said kind of like, it sounds kind of fucked up, or she said something like that. But all I want is like the basics from a person, like to treat me nice, to have a good time, all of those basics that every person should get, especially in a relationship. And he of course tells her that she deserves more than just the basics, and that he finds it hard to believe that she hasn't been treated better in her past relationships. And to me, Zach, when he was on, what season did Zach come off? It just ended. Oh yeah, Rachel and Gabby. Like, we saw towards the end when he was gonna get eliminated, like Rachel kind of had like the ick, right? We can all see that. She kind of was like, I kind of got the ick from him too on that season. I was kind of like, no thanks. But in this season, it's a little different. Like, sometimes I feel the ick still. But I feel like he's kind of one of the first bachelors where I've felt like, when I see him speaking to some of the girls, like in this case, Katie, I feel the connection. Like, I feel him being genuine. And I don't feel like I've felt like that with many of the past bachelors. Like, I can't even name one besides maybe Ben Higgins. That was probably the last bachelor. Ben was really emotional and stuff. And, but he was kind of the last bachelor that I felt like was really intentional and very sincere. And I see that coming from Zach. Hopefully I'm not wrong. But of course, he offers her the rose, right? They're talking and he offers her the rose. And then he does something that I'm trying to think back, and I don't think this has ever happened before. but he asks her to spend the night in the museum with him. And I'm like, since when are we doing this so early in the season? Like, usually that's just for the last 3 girls. And you get the overnight dates or whatever. So I thought that was like wild, that was happening. But then they walk up over to this other part of the museum, and we see like the setup. It was a really cute setup because it was almost like they were camping, and they had like they even had like these silky pajamas with animals on them, and they were like matching. So I thought it was really cute, but it was just very surprising that would happen so early on in the season, because it usually doesn't. So the girls wake up the next morning, and of course Katie isn't back. They all realize that she's not back, so they're kind of like, what is going on? And then of course Katie comes in. One of the girls mentions, it felt like the walk of shame. And I was like, that's very true. She sits around with the girls, and the girls look visibly, upset, because they're kind of like, what the hell's going on? And one of them asked her, did you sleep at all? And Katie says, nope, which can be interpreted in many ways. Like, we don't know what happens in these overnight dates. Like, we just don't. So they could have been talking all night. They could have been doing who knows what all night. Like, only they know what happened. But I would definitely feel some type of way if I was one of the girls in the house, because if I'm really invested in Zach and I'm really there, and some of the girls are, some of the girls aren't, and I would feel some type of way, because it's kind of like, what makes Katie so special that you had to spend the night with her, type of thing. Then we see the big group date, and of course they're going to play football. They do some type of sportsy activity every season, I feel. And they got the yellow team versus the blue team. I don't feel like I have much to say about the football date, but the blue team ends up winning basically, and they're the ones that get to go like on a date with Zach. So later on we see Christina and Zach sitting on the couch. She kind of has her legs over him. You can tell there's a connection there, And I actually think her boots in that scene, I was like, I think I have those boots, and they're from Target. I'm pretty sure they're the same boots. I wanted to pause it, but then I was just like going through it, so I didn't. Then they're making out. We see him making out a lot, I feel. I mean, hey, you're looking for love, but I don't know. I don't really feel like you need to make out with literally everyone. So then we see Christina with some of the girls. They're sitting down, and Ariel talks about how difficult, I guess, the group date was, because you're on opposite teams. You're competing against other girls that you've built friendships with. And then Christina chimes in, and she's like, well, we don't need to feel guilty. And she's like, I came for myself. I had that first one-on-one, and because of that, I feel like our connection is more chill. It's more real. And the girls are just sitting around looking at her like, you can tell they're irritated. So then Christina asked the girls how they feel about the rose, right? Because they have that group date rose that one of them will get, and it's on the table. They're sitting around the table, and she's like, so how do you guys feel about the rose? And Christina again starts talking about her one-on-one date, and Brooklyn responds to her like, where, and I don't think Christina fully caught that. And she just continues to go on and on about her connection with him, about her one-on-one with him. And then Brooklyn again interrupts her, and she's like, respectfully. I love that she used that, respectfully. Basically, like, if I hear one more time about your one-on-one, I'm gonna lose my mind. And she's like, not that I don't care, or not that we're not happy for you, but it feels malicious, basically, that you keep bringing this up. We see Zach and Charity have a moment. We see them. I don't feel like I had seen them connected prior to this moment that they were having. They kiss. It seems like he likes her. It doesn't seem like the connection is as deep as it is with some of the other girls, but it does seem like there's some type of connection. And Bailey, she had, I think, was it the first episode where she kind of had like a little bit of a meltdown? Was it her? I think it was her. I'm not sure if it was her or no. But she interrupts his time with, I believe he was talking to Kylie. And she talks about how she's in her head, how she felt a connection when she first came out of the limo. And then it's been like regressing since then, and it just feels weird. And he's like, yeah, it is weird. Things do seem a little off. And then Ariel comes in and interrupts. And it was kind of an awkward moment because they were barely starting to get into that conversation. And then she comes and interrupts. And when that kind of thing happens, and you're I felt like that that conversation that Zach was having with Bailey was kind of important to have. And I felt like he should have told him, like, can we just have a second? Like, just let me finish this conversation and then I'll go find you. Because when interrupts, he kind of like stays quiet and he looks over at Bailey, and then Bailey's like, oh yeah, like it's totally fine. And he tells Bailey basically like, yeah, like, but I would like to talk with you about this at some point. And of course, Bailey feels sad because she wanted to feel validated. She wanted him to tell her, like, I do want you here. It's all in your head. Like, don't stress, like, that type of thing. And he didn't. Bailey comes back and she tells him basically she wants to feel validated. She wants him to want her here. And he just basically kind of shuts her down. He's like, like the way I feel now, it's just like the connection's not really there. I don't know that we can get there. I don't know that I exactly see a future with you. And she's just kind of like shocked. She thinks if they had more time that something could get there. And so she goes home, and good for her. Like, I understand that she wanted to feel validated, but you can't force a connection that's not there. Like, I always say, if I was on this show, even if I was like, you don't really know him, right? None of these girls really know Zach. You're just kind of like basically. I would kind of have it in my head like, there's only one of us that's gonna come out of here with him, so it's kind of like, if the connection's not there, then it's fine. It's like when they, like, all the time, and I'm sure we'll see it this season, once it gets to like the very end and the last bunch of girls, they always say like, oh, like, you blindsided me, or like all of these things, they kind of blame it on the Bachelor or Bachelorette. And it's one of those things, it's like, you came on this knowing that only one person was going to leave with him or her. You can't blame them for having a stronger connection with someone else. Like, you just can't. And I think Zach, so once Bailey leaves, Zach kind of, tells the girls, yeah, she left. She was looking for validation and I just couldn't give that to her. And he says, you can't just lead people on. And I thought that was very important and a amazing thing for him to say, because facts, if you don't feel it, don't lead someone on. So then it's time for him to give out like that group date rose, and I thought for a second he was going to give it to Christina. I was like, oh my god, there's gonna be drama if he gives it to Christina, and he didn't. He gave it to Charity, and I was like, wise choice, my man. I like Charity. And obviously all the other girls, they're happy for her, and they tell her she deserved it. And of course, once again, Christina is off on the side, being a little hater. Christina's kind of like, I'm confused, honestly. Like, did I miss something? I'm just confused. She keeps saying she's confused. And Charity's kind of like, what? Like, did I say something wrong? And Christina's like, well, I'm mad it wasn't me. Like, duh. But she has like this attitude. And the whole time I'm looking at her, like, I'm like, is she drunk again? Like, because all these times I keep feeling like she's drunk, but I can't keep blaming the alcohol on her actions at this point. So maybe she wasn't. But I don't know, like the looks that she gives off sometimes, I'm like, I feel like she's drunk, but maybe she's not. And Brooklyn chimes in once again. I love Brooklyn because she's standing up for herself. She's standing up for the rest of the girls. She is not afraid to tell Christina what's on her mind. She's like, listen, I'm going to shoot you straight once again. She tells her, you make like everything about you. And she just kind of, they're kind of going back and forth. And Kylie off to the side says like, something needs to be said to Zach soon. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to turn into a whole thing. So that's pretty much how that night ended. So we know there's going to be like drama obviously later. So the girls that were back at the house receive a big white box with a white bow on it. And inside is what looks like a kind of like wedding dress type of thing. And that is for Allie to wear on the one-on-one. Now, Allie's one-on-one, it wasn't really a dress. It was a white jumper and it had like a train in the back. And Zach was wearing a suit. Allie is I'm like, did I miss something? Because I don't feel like when she got that one-on-one, I was like, wait, have they even talked? Like, I was like, I feel like I haven't really seen her on camera yet. But she's beautiful. She's one of those girls. I hate these kind of girls that just don't need any makeup. Like, she has beautiful bone structure. She's just like naturally beautiful. He tells her they're going to be jumping out of a plane. And I'm just kind of confused because throughout the whole day, I was like, wait, so why are they wearing that then? If they were going to go jump out of a plane, why do they need to wear what they were wearing? That's not necessarily the most comfortable thing to be jumping out of a plane on. And it has a train. Oh my God, I just thought about that. And it had a train. that was pretty cool, I guess, if you're not scared of heights. If you're scared of heights, I can't imagine someone who's terrified of heights having to go on that date, because they probably wouldn't have jumped. But after they jump, they both look like they had a good time. They're kind of like in this like outdoor hot tub type thing, making out, of course. And then they move over to a dinner, and she's wearing this like beautiful like emerald green dress. Like the cutout was a little like different. I don't even know how to explain the cutout, but it was beautiful. She looked really nice in it. You can tell she has a really nice body. And she opens up to him and talks about how she's very like type A personality. Today was nice for her, and it was different because she's so type A, and she likes to be in control of everything, of how the day goes, of what she's doing. And this kind of manifests into the past relationships that she's been in, and how she's always been with people who are controlling, all of these things. And he tells her that he wants to see more of her and not necessarily of who she's trying to kind of like pretend to be. And you can tell she's really into him. And he gives her the rose. Obviously, they had a great date. There was no doubt he was going to give her that rose. And he talks about how like Allie really blew him away, and how like so many things can change in just one day. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's in trouble. Because like I feel like all of these dates are going so well for him, but in the end, he's going to have to pick just one. And then it closes off with a performance by, I think, Griffin Palmer. Who Griffin Palmer is, I am not sure. But that person performed. So the next day, once again, we see Christina talking about her one-on-one with Zach, etc. She talks about how she met his whole family, how everyone must be jealous, and she's not here to make friends. And I'm just seeing all of this, and I'm like, oh my God, she's already the villain. Like, she's gonna be the villain of this season. Jesse tells the girls that instead of a cocktail party, there's gonna be a pool party. So they put on their swimsuits. We see him in the tub with Ariel making out once again. And I really like Ariel. I'm rooting for her. But I feel like their connection, this is not me throwing shade, this is just how I see it. It feels almost more of like a sexual connection between them, and not necessarily like a deep emotional one. And we see him talking with Jess, and I was like, who's Jess again? Like, it's so interesting when you see these other girls, because sometimes in The Bachelor, this happened with Colton on his season. Him and Cassie had a connection like down the road. It wasn't necessarily there at the beginning, I believe. And I think it happened with Ben and JoJo too. But like, she might just be someone who he ends up having a really deep connection with down the road. But yeah, we see them talking. She's coming out of her shell. And I'm like, I want to see more of her. I hope we do get to see who she is. And we see Brianna. Brianna. I really like her. So she's kind of like, 1 foot out the door. And she just doesn't feel like there's like a romantic connection there for her and Zach. So she goes over and she talks to Zach, and she basically wants to know like what it was that made him feel like he couldn't be natural with her. Like he couldn't get, because he did say she was kind of like guarded and all these things and a little more serious. And she just said, I'm trying so hard to be like genuine, and I'm sad because I am planning to leave. And Zach is kind of like, we can't force anything that isn't there. And I was like, oh, he feels it too. And Brianna, on her way out, she's like, I'm going to make sure that he knows exactly who is creating drama, who's making people feel uncomfortable, etc. And then I'm going to leave. And she tells him about Christina. She finally names that the person that, she kind of words it like, girls are struggling to be authentic because of this person, because this person is making them feel uncomfortable. And she name drops Christina. Mentions the whole thing with Charity, how she made Charity cry. She's just like, we should be in a safe environment where there is no intimidation. And I was like, I love how she worded that. And I'm so here for Brianna. In the last episode, I thought Brianna was just like kind of over exaggerating. Like I have a friend who like, I don't know, I feel like she overthinks things a lot. And in that moment when she was talking about like what Christina had said to her, I was like, oh, she's like overthinking it, blah, blah, blah. That's just how I took it at first. But now I can see that there's more to it. And I'm sure she had other moments with Christina where, it wasn't just that one moment that she mentioned. And she's kind of like, I only feel comfortable telling you this because I'm leaving. And then she leaves. Basically, they hug and she leaves. And then you see some of the other girls, they're crying because she's leaving. And Zach kind of comes over and talks to the girls about what Brianna told him. And he's just kind of like, I want to speak to some of you about that because, I want to get to the bottom of what's going on. And so the first person that he pulls aside is, of course, Christina. And, he talks about Christina, and I was like, wow, he's really into her, because he kind of goes, we had the best start we could have ever had. She was in my home. He's like, she met my family. She met my dogs. I was like, facts. That's something I'd say. Like, you met my 3 dogs. Like, that's special. And he tells her, like, women have felt hurt and insecure because of you. And she's kind of like playing kind of dumb. Like, she's just like, I don't even understand where this is coming from. Like, I'm so outgoing, I'm a happy person, I'm loud. And she says that she feels like maybe the other girls feel like she's been more privileged, like she's more special because she has a better relationship with Zach than the other girls because she met the family. She's saying a whole bunch of stuff, like she's crying. She's like, it would be a mistake to believe that. And it was just, oh my God, like it was just a lot. Like she's there and she's crying. She's just like, help me, help me, help me. She repeated that like a few times, and he's kind of there and he's stressed out and she's crying, and it's just very like awkward. And I think in that moment, definitely in that moment, you could tell in his face, he was like, I don't want any part of this. He's like, this girl is just a little crazy. Like I want nothing to do with this. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think she's going to come back from this. Like, I don't think so. And, he pulls, I think, Brooklyn aside. He pulls Charity aside, I think, to get their version. We don't necessarily see their conversation. And she's just on the stairs, laying down, crying. And there's even a part where all the other girls, like the pool party ends, I guess, and the other girls are moving maybe to another part of the house. And she's just there. Like, it's so awkward because she's there. I don't mean to laugh at anyone who's crying, but like, it's awkward. She's just there on the floor crying, and some of the girls just kind of pass her by like whatever. And I don't know if it was Ariel who stops and talks to her. A few of the girls stop and ask her if she's okay and stuff. Yeah, then we see the rose ceremony, and to no surprise, Christina didn't get the rose. I almost thought he was gonna give it to her and give her a second chance, but I think he saw the writing on the wall and he was kind of like, I can't do this. I think maybe she would have had a chance even after all of this came out about her, because sometimes, the villains stay. Sometimes they stay for quite some time. If she would have just handled, when she was talking to Zach about the situation, if she would have just handled it differently, but instead she began to cry, she began to kind of blame it on the other girls about how there was no truth to the situation, all of these things. And I'm like, maybe if you would have taken some accountability, you would still be there for a few more nights. He does walk Christina out, and she, she's just kind of gives him a hug. She looks sad. She's like, I know you're going to find your best friend. She says some things like that. And I got to give it up for Zach because he took action. He saw something that he didn't like. He was like, I don't want this drama. And you could tell from the beginning, he said it. He's like, I don't like the drama. Like, I don't think he does well with drama. And so I think he wanted to just nip it in the bud. And I give him props for that, because that makes the girls in the house feel like they can count on him, and like he listens to what they have to say, which is very important. And we see some previews. I think it's to the next episode, and someone's not there for the right reasons. Someone's there for social media and clout, and they're making it seem like it's Kylie from what they're showing. But you know how they work. Sometimes they make it seem like it's about a certain person that it's not about. Hopefully it's not about Kylie, because I actually really like her. I don't think the connection is there with Zach, but I don't know, I like her. So I hope it's not about her. But it does look like there's going to be more drama to come, which always makes for a good show, right? But yeah, that is my recap for episode 3. That's pretty much all I have to say. I will be recapping episode 4 next week.